Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell had the makings to become the greatest trio the NFL has ever seen. They matched the star power of Aikman, Emmett, and Irvin, and they rivaled the production of Montana, Rice, and Craig. So, what killed the Killer Bees? Bringing the Bees together. Prior to Ben Roethlisberger arriving in Pittsburgh, the Steelers were at a crossroad at the quarterback position. They shuffled between 3 different passers for 5 years before Big Ben and failed to sustain success with any of them. But when Roethlisberger took over in 2004, to say he took the league by storm is an understatement. As a rookie, he led the Steelers to a 15-1 record, and in his first 5 years, he won 2 Super Bowls. While Ben's success was immediate and he gave the Steel City some much-needed consistency at quarterback, it was the Steelers' elite defense that carried the load early in Roethlisberger's tenure. They had a top 5 defense for 7 of his first 8 seasons. But at the turn of the decade, their defensive stars were getting old, and the Steelers needed change. And that change came in the most unlikely of forms. I'm talking in the form of a 6th-round pick in the 2010 draft. No one knew it at the time, but the 195th pick out of Central Michigan was about to change their organization forever. Welcome to Pittsburgh, Antonio Brown. To say Antonio Brown got off to as fast a start as Roethlisberger, that would be a lie. But it didn't take long. While he didn't catch many passes his rookie year, he was an instant impact on special teams. He even returned a kickoff for a touchdown in his NFL debut. In 2011, Antonio's second season, we were given our first glimpse of his special connection with Big Ben. AB only started 3 games and took most of his snaps out of the slot, but he still managed to catch 69 passes for 1,108 yards. Coincidentally, it was also Ben's best statistical season at the time, and he made the Pro Bowl for just the 2nd time in his career. 2012 was a down year for the Steelers as a whole, and Big Ben missed some time due to injury. But behind the scenes, AB was climbing the ranks within the receiver room and prepping for a statement season. And when the 2013 draft rolled around, the Steelers added the final piece to their offensive puzzle. This time, it was an overlooked running back out of Michigan State. When Pittsburgh took a chance on Le'Veon Bell in the 2nd round, draft analysts believed he was selected too early. But Le'Veon was about to change the running back position forever and spark an offensive revolution in the Steel City. The Bees are buzzing. 2013 started the most dominant 5-year stretch from a QB receiver duo we've ever seen. AB established himself as the #1 receiver in the Steelers' locker room, and he was ready to let the league know. Early in the season, the Steelers struggled and lost the first 4 games. However, Antonio Brown was rolling, averaging over 100 yards per game. But there was still something missing to the Steelers' offense: Le'Veon Bell. He was inactive for the first 3 games of the season. When he made his NFL debut in Week 4, he made sure he wouldn't be inactive again, finding the end zone twice. Following the Week 5 bye, the Steelers' Big 3 were on a mission. They were dominant, unprecedented, and most importantly, making history. Pittsburgh went 8-4 to end the season, and AB etched himself into the Steelers' franchise record book, blowing past Yancey Thigpen's single-season receiving record with 1,499 yards. But he did more than reset the Steelers' books. He accomplished feats never seen before. Brown became the only player to ever catch at least 5 passes for 50 yards in every game of a season. Bell also had a solid rookie campaign, finishing the year with over 1,200 total yards and 8 touchdowns. Although no offseason would be more important to the Killer Bees than 2014. Bell lost 20 pounds over the summer, so now he was still big enough to run over tacklers, but had breakaway speed and was more explosive than ever before. Already a matchup nightmare, being an elite receiver out of the backfield, Bell frustrated opposing defenses by becoming the most patient runner the league had ever seen. He would wait and wait and wait, then explode through the holes in the defense. In his 2nd season, and faster than ever, his yards per run shot up from 3.5 to 4.7. But Le'Veon wasn't the only one taking his game to the next level. AB and Big Ben also set the league on fire. The Killer Bees were setting career highs in every stat category. Roethlisberger finished the season with 4,952 passing yards and 32 touchdowns. Brown finished with 1,698 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns. And Bell finished with 2,215 total yards and 11 touchdowns. They became the first trio ever to have a 4,500-yard passer, 1,500-yard receiver, and a 1,300-yard rusher in a single season. All 3 made the Pro Bowl, and Brown and Bell both earned first-team All-Pro honors. Their individual success was great, but more importantly, the Steelers were winning. They finished the year 11-5 and won the division. Unfortunately, their playoff debut would get ripped right out from under them. In the final game of the regular season, Bell hyperextended his knee, and without Le'Veon in the wildcard round, they were unable to overcome a strong Ravens defense. 2015 was a year of both triumph and tribulation for the Killer Bees. Le'Veon Bell got suspended for the first 2 games of the season after being caught with marijuana, then only played 6 games before an MCL tear cut his season short. Ben Roethlisberger also suffered multiple injuries throughout the year and missed 4 games in the middle of the season with an MCL sprain. But Antonio Brown, on the other hand, he carried the Steelers on his back and put together not only the best year of his career, but one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen from a receiver. He ended the year with 136 receptions, 1,834 yards, and 10 touchdowns as he led Pittsburgh to a 10-6 record and another playoff berth. AB was named to the Pro Bowl and first All-Pro team for a second year in a row. However, this playoff run is where everything would take a turn. Pittsburgh would travel to Cincinnati in the wildcard round for a division rivalry game. The Steelers dominated the game, leading 15-0 in the fourth quarter. That is, until Vontaze Burfict left his impression on the game. He sacked Big Ben with a hit that separated his shoulder and knocked him out of the game. This rallied the Bengals to a comeback where they scored 16 unanswered points. Ben returned to lead the Steelers on a game-winning drive, but Burfict wouldn't give up that easily. Late in the game, Burfict smashed into a defenseless AB. The hit on Brown laid him out, limp and motionless on the ground. The Steelers did go on to win the game, but they lost everything. Without AB or Le'Veon Bell, they were no match for the Denver Broncos the next week, and Ben Roethlisberger was playing injured. Coincidentally, Burfict was also the player who laid a dirty hit on Bell that ended his season earlier in the year. He single-handedly ruined the Steelers' season, killing the Killer Bees. After a brutal end to the 2015 season, 2016 was supposed to be the year the Steelers elevated to heights higher than ever. Le'Veon Bell took that a bit too literally, as he was suspended for a second time for marijuana. Despite Bell missing the first 3 games of the season and AB twerking his way into some controversy, it was yet another dominant year for Pittsburgh and the Killer Bees. All 3 players made the Pro Bowl, AB landed on the first All-Pro team for the 3rd year straight, and the Steelers won the division. But better than that, all the Killer Bees were healthy for the playoffs for the first time, and on the biggest stage, they showed out. In the wildcard round, they smashed the Dolphins 30-12, with Bell and Brown combining for almost 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. They then traveled to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs in the divisional round. Once again, both AB and Bell broke 100 yards to pull off the road game upset, but the sweet taste of victory soured quickly thanks to a Facebook Live video. Antonio Brown thought it would be a good idea to give the world a sneak peek of the Steelers' celebration. The problem was, he showed Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin talking smack about their AFC Championship game opponent, the Patriots. That viral video fired up the Pats defense to be merciless, and when game day came around, they suffocated the Killer Bees and blew out Pittsburgh. What's the fastest way to ruin a good thing? Pride, ego, and money. And in 2017, the Killer Bees were whipping up a cocktail with all 3 of those ingredients. People often point out 2 things when trying to figure out where things changed for Antonio Brown. One is the Vontaze Burfict hit, and the other is the contract he got in the 17 offseason. A 4-year, $68 million deal that made AB the highest paid receiver in the league. Don't get it twisted. He earned every penny of that deal, and he was easily the best receiver in the league at the time. But in the words of the late great Biggie Smalls, mo money, mo problems. And that's exactly what the Steelers got. Le'Veon Bell also wanted to be paid and was not happy when the Steelers franchise tagged him prior to the season, so he skipped training camp and the preseason because of it. Once he reported to the team for the first game of the year, it was back to business as usual for the Killer Bees. Dominance to the tune of a 13-3 record on the season, but the cracks in the steel armor were starting to show. AB started throwing tantrums on the sideline, and Big Ben publicly threw him under the bus on radio shows. They were the most dynamic duo in the NFL, but they also hated each other. The trio once again made the Pro Bowl in 2017. Brown and Bell were again both named to first All-Pro team. Pittsburgh had a first-round bye in the playoffs, and when the Jags came to Heinz Field for the divisional round, no one gave them much of a chance. Everyone was ready for the rematch between the Steelers and the Patriots. That is, until midway through the second quarter, and the Steelers were down 28-7. Big Ben put together arguably the greatest game of his career, with 469 yards and 5 touchdowns against the strong Saxonville defense. But it still wasn't enough, as they fell 45-42 in an all-time upset. This loss would be the straw that broke the camel's back. The breakup. The offseason was dominated by Le'Veon Bell news. Will he or won't he show up? After another franchise tag, Bell refused to play without a new contract, threatening to sit out the entire season if he had to. Then, if those headlines weren't enough distraction, Ben was dealing with his own drama, basically getting offensive coordinator and play caller Todd Haley shipped out of town. And if that's still not juicy enough for you, AB spent his offseason throwing furniture from his apartment window and being subpoenaed for going 100 miles an hour through his local neighborhood. The drama off the field carried right on over to the gridiron. When Bell said he was sitting out, he meant it. The best running back in the league at the time was a no-show for the entire 2018 season. The connection between Ben and AB was still as good as ever. They thrived in the chaos. Roethlisberger threw for 5,129 yards and 34 touchdowns, both career highs, while Brown went for 1,297 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns, which was a career high for him. But behind the scenes, everything was going to shit. Reports came out that Ben and Brown constantly fought at practice and in team meetings. A former Steelers PR department employee tweeted that Big Ben made AB, and he wouldn't have near the same success on another team. So AB lashed out with an iconic tweet: "Trade me, let's find out." Roethlisberger's frustration quickly boiled over, and it would take just one last mistake to truly destroy the Killer Bees. In a practice during the final week of the season, Ben and Brown got into what would be their final shouting match. Brown stormed off the practice field and refused to play another down for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The 2018 season came to an end, with Brown watching from the sideline in a mink coat. AB demanded a trade directly after the season. Meanwhile, Le'Veon Bell, after sitting out the entire year and giving up $8 million, was free to sign with whoever he wanted. The Bees were officially dead. Where are they now? Ben Roethlisberger's numbers dropped significantly after the departure of Brown and Bell. He never made another Pro Bowl and never won another playoff game. He went on to retire in 2022, a two-time Super Bowl champ and likely Hall of Famer. Le'Veon Bell never got the deal he wanted from anyone. His decision to sit out turned out to be one of the worst business decisions in NFL history. He got an under-market deal from the New York Jets that was less than what Pittsburgh had offered him the year prior. In less than 2 years, the Jets cut Bell, basically getting no production from him while spending $35 million. And where do we even begin with Antonio Brown's post-Steeler run? You name it, he did it. He was initially traded to the Raiders, but before even practicing with them, he nearly froze his own feet off in a cryotherapy chamber. He then refused to practice because he couldn't wear the helmet he wanted, and after being fined for missing practice, he cussed out the Raiders GM and was cut from the team. He was then signed by the Patriots before having 2 sexual abuse allegations put on him. The Pats had no choice but to cut him. But lucky for AB, once that was cleared up, Tom Brady was able to get him signed by the Bucs, where he won a Super Bowl. And right when things were looking up, Antonio Brown got into an argument with Bucs head coach Bruce Arians on the sideline that led to AB getting half naked and leaving the stadium mid-game. He was cut following the act. Despite 13 Pro Bowls and 6 All-Pro first-team distinctions, perhaps the most talented trio the NFL has ever seen never made it to a Super Bowl, let alone win one.